In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look here at our major Arctic blast that we have coming in just a couple of days. And believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe because we are in early November, we are expecting potential snowfall with this for areas like the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. Most of this is going to be snow showers, but we do actually expect a potential snowstorm to set up somewhere in there. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. The degree of how intense that would be is unknown at this point, and again, it is a rare event, so we like to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. But we're really looking at something interesting, I think, setting up. And there is going to be numerous other storms as well as potentially more cooldowns on the way, so we're going to be discussing the whole upcoming pattern in this video. So let's first off, just to kind of grasp ourselves with where we're starting out, take a look here at the current conditions, and there's two major storm systems. One of which is located here over the northeast, as you can see, kind of northeast corner of the nation, and this is impacting areas of Canada, areas of the Mid-Atlantic, and areas of the Northeast. And I'm going to switch this over to white so we can see a little bit better, but we can see here along the west coast, there's another storm system moving on shore. And typically we call this kind of your atmospheric river. That term was really popular a few years ago, but that's what we call it when we just have storm after storm after storm just being really just shoved into this area via the jet stream. And we are certainly seeing that take place here over the upcoming pattern, so that'll be a big focus point in this video as well. Let's start out with the southwest. We'll move northward in a moment, but we can see mostly light to moderate showers for areas in California, Nevada here, a little bit of Nevada, southern Oregon, and into Idaho. We can see there is some low pressure there very close to the coastline of northern California. So basically from areas just to the north of the LA area, northward in California, we're seeing pretty persistent precipitation taking place. It is kind of off and on a little bit, but it is really relentless. As we move northward to Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Washington State, you can see things are a lot heavier, actually. We can see areas here throughout the Seattle area, down through Olympia, Portland, Oregon, down to Eugene, down to Medford. We see all of these areas dealing with these light to moderate to maybe even heavy showers taking place. And there is actually a second band of this further inland that is impacting areas like Lewiston, there between Idaho and Washington, as well as Spokane. Or Spokane. I just realized I've never said that out loud before. I've heard of it, but again, here I go. I had trouble pronouncing a town yesterday, and now I think I'm having trouble today. So tell me the correct way to pronounce that. We could see areas of Vancouver Island as well, and Vancouver itself there in Western Canada, dealing with this heavier activity as well. In the current conditions, we do have access to Southern Canada's radar, so I do like to kind of include you guys a little bit more as well. Let's move towards the east, where we do have a system all the way over here in the northeastern corner of the nation, and most of your low pressure there is just to the east of Toronto. And as we can see, a lot of the activity behind it is in the form of lighter showers that are generally moving southeastward here across the lakes and across areas of Canada here. All of the activity off to the east of it, though, is quite a bit heavier. And we can see some of this ongoing for eastern Ohio into areas like Pittsburgh and surrounding regions. That's where my mom's from, actually. Shout out to Uniontown, Pennsylvania, if you guys are from there or have been there. That is kind of the general area she is from, and I end up there a lot, and I do love that area, so shout out to you guys over there. We do see some pretty heavy stuff, actually, to the north of Pittsburgh, and then as you kind of go northeastward from there through towns like, oh, here I go. I'll just name the easy ones. Ford City, Rural Valley, Plumville. Isn't that where the little, what was it? What is the animal, guys? I don't know why I'm blanking. The woodchuck or whatever he is, the guy that sees his shadow or not. I swear, Punxsutawney or whatever it's called. That is so funny. I was not expecting to see that today. As we head further towards I-80 here, Du Bois, Clearfield here, seeing some of this heavier stuff. And this is moderate to heavy You know, if it wasn't so cold tonight, I would say this is likely thunderstorm activity happening in there, but I would just say really heavy showers for that area. And as you head generally northeasterly, we actually do see a lot of that similarly heavy activity up here for northern Pennsylvania, up into areas of central New York like Syracuse, Cortland, Binghamton down here as well. We're seeing a lot of this, and this will be heading into the general kind of like Albany area, Pittsfield there in Massachusetts, kind of that I-87 corridor. Going to be experiencing that in just a little while. We do see off to the east for the New England states, we do have this kind of light activity. Again, this heavier stuff is on the way generally as it is heading kind of easterly, maybe northeasterly. There's a little bit of a spin to it. We do have a heavier pocket there near Augusta, Maine, but most of this is generally more light to moderate. We do see some moderate showers nearby Montreal as well, with a lot of your eastern Canada areas in general seeing showery activity. Now let's go ahead and move on and take a look here at your model guidance. As we take a look here at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the National Weather Service, we have to keep in mind that this is as of today on November 5th, and also this is for November 11th through 15th. Remember, our cool down is moving in for the 9th through like the 11th or 12th time frame, so you're only getting the second half of that cool down on this graphic. So that's a really critical detail there. But we do see for this time frame, even the 11th through the 15th here, they do anticipate that the eastern seaboard will hang on to a lot of that cooler air for even this time frame. And I think likely by the 13th or 14th, it will have warmed up, but it's going to be so potent compared to normal that the warmth won't even stand a chance in comparison. And that's why we're still dealing with blue along the east. But we could see a lot of the western and central areas dealing with pretty severe warmth compared to typical. And that is kind of what we've been saying for a while now. 8 to 14 day period is a lot different though, 13th through 19th, and there is still some uncertainty for this time frame. I think the models are pretty split on it. But we do see maybe a west coast cooling down, which, as you guys know, we call negative PNA, and that actually forces warmer air up into a lot of the central and eastern states. So this would be a completely opposite pattern from the 9th through the 12th to this time frame. It would be a complete reversal. So we're going to wait and see what happens with this as we get a little bit closer, but I am curious to see what happens. This is nearing the 10-day time frame sort of in there, so there is growing confidence. We'll have to see what happens. With all that being said, let's take a look at the past 5 days of temperatures, because this is your first 5 days of November, and you can see, again, the west has been quite warm, so positive PNA, and we have seen our fair share of cooler air moving down in to the eastern states, but actually especially the deep south and southeastern areas here in particular have been dealing with the furthest below normal conditions. So that is what we've dealt with so far. And again, we have a lot more of this on the way here coming up not too far from now. Let's take a look here at the storminess. And again, west coast storm, northeast storm, nothing should look too different. As we head towards tomorrow afternoon, though, that northeastern one is said and done. We do have some cooler air up there for the northeast. Generally, we are cooler than our western counterparts here in the east, indicated by that kind of descending look we have on these colored lines. A lot of the northwest here is seeing overall precipitation, rainfall for some of the lower elevations, and even some of the northwest there, and then some of the Rockies seeing some snowfall mixing in, but this is a warmer than normal pattern for them. So some of those areas that typically would be below freezing are a little bit above it, so that might make precipitation type a little bit uncertain. Friday here on the 7th, we can see the building blocks for our cool down starting up. We do see a low just to the north of the Great Lakes. We see a cold front forming underneath, warm front right out to the east here, so it's creating this kind of warm sector. And then we can see overall some warming for the west coast. We do see this building pocket of Arctic air here that looks to kind of fill in the gap, and that is going to be our Arctic blast. So we'll be watching for some more showery activity, maybe even thunderstorms in the deeper south along this. And again, much cooler air moving in. And that starts for Saturday on the 8th. And some interesting things happening here. Again, watch your west because we have that jet stream moving further and further northward as we get advancing warm air moving up the west coast. Cooler air is starting to descend down from Canada already. We do have a low forming here over the Midwest. We're going to be watching for a potential snowstorm, like I mentioned, and this European model will have it here. As we head overnight from Saturday into Sunday, here is 6 a.m., and we do have a 1,000 millibar low pressure center there between Illinois and Indiana, and we do end up with some pretty decent snowfall for Wisconsin, Michigan here, even some snow showers throughout the kind of northern plains and upper Midwest area. Continued thunderstorms or heavier showers here in the deeper southeast corridor overall. As we move on a couple of frames, we see this low start to get a little bit more intense. 998 over northern Ohio, very far northern Indiana, the Chicago area in northern Illinois, and then also a lot of southern Michigan there are dealing with light to moderate to even heavy snowfall for some of these areas. Very classic looking storm. Still got this dragging cold front underneath. Little bit of a warm front, nothing crazy. So we are looking at the potential for heavier showers or thunderstorms still on the southeastern side of this storm. We see that snowfall continue for quite a few hours and move up into Canada, actually. We do see, as the colder air continues to move in, we end up with some lake effect snowfall getting going as well for areas of Wisconsin, Michigan in both peninsulas, Indiana, Illinois, although they're not very known for their lake effect too much because typically a lot of the winds are moving generally eastward, so Indiana usually gets a bit more. We do see a little bit of Ohio getting in on some of this. So this ends up being a pretty intense situation. Lots of precipitation up and down the eastern seaboard, even mountainous snowfall up there in the northeast for Sunday. As we head towards Monday here on the 10th, we can see a lot of snow showers throughout your kind of southeast areas for the hilly and mountainous areas, even some of central Tennessee and areas of Kentucky seeing some snow showers or flurries flying. So this is highly unusual for this time of year, really unusual. A lot of areas here seeing snowfall, which is just goes to show how cold it is on this model run. And we continue to see lake effect snowfall all the way into the 10th, 11th for, again, states like Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia is getting some, moving all the way through Pennsylvania, New York. People forget that these lake effect bands can travel pretty far. It's important to remember that. As we keep going towards Tuesday here afternoon on November 11th, we continue to see some snow showers in these areas. As we move on towards Wednesday here on the 12th, we flatten out that jet stream. So again, already by the 12th, we go from that extreme temperature pattern right back to something that's relatively normal here. So pretty interesting. Thursday on the 13th, we see another major storm system for the west. So again, atmospheric river really getting going, turning on. We see the mountainous west dealing with snowfall, rainfall for the lower elevations, and a general cooling trend over the west, which again might play into the hand of what the National Weather Service is calling for. Friday the 14th here really looks like what they're saying. We have generally a trough over the west coast and then a ridge over especially the central states and a little bit of a trough over the east, if not maybe like a neutral or typical pattern here, but nowhere near as warm as these central states. In other words, continued heavy precipitation though for the southwestern areas now. Saturday on the 15th, the west continues to look pretty active. Again, high elevations dealing with snowfall. And the jet stream is generally a trough throughout these areas and then a ridge further towards the east. Again, still descending right as it's reaching towards the eastern seaboard, which has been a trend this year where it's been these inland areas that are a little bit more mild. And then as you reach towards the east coast, it looks like there's more of a secondary trough. And we've seen that again throughout this fall so far. Sunday the 16th here, we have a little bit of a low trying to develop nearby Texas and Oklahoma, which could cause some thunderstorm activity underneath it. More showery activity to the north of it. More activity in the northwest. So again, 976 there over the Canadian Rockies. Heavy snowfall for high elevations. Heavy rainfall for lower elevations. Really, really intense looking system. Speaking of intense looking systems, we get this one, 988 here over the Midwest. Really intense cold front here. This would likely feature severe weather, especially in these deeper south locations. That just looks like a very amped look. Definitely draws some red flags, although this is the long range, so take it with a grain of salt. And then generally we move towards something that looks like maybe we're about to get cooler again because we see warmth building for the west, cooler air kind of heading eastward. Rocky Mountain snowfall as well within there. And then we have a low nearby the Great Lakes with a cold front. So that's kind of your I'm trying to think. That's kind of, it's all the pieces you really need. We have all the ingredients there. So it's just about, are we going to bake a cake here? Or are we going to just have all the ingredients sitting on the counter all day? That's the question at hand here. And we're going to have to see what ends up happening. Total precipitation. We do see quite a bit for the west. Continued above normal activity. We get a couple areas, a couple streaks here across the central states especially, but also into the east, where we are looking pretty decent with the precipitation, even into the northeast here. So looking at the anomalies, which is usually more useful, we do see, again, the west is pretty far above normal, and then we get these certain areas in the central and eastern states that are above. And even, I mean, looking at the whole United States, hardly anybody's in the dark browns or reds here, which would be, you're more like, okay, this is seriously dry compared to normal. So any of the light browns, it's not too alarming. This is overall a positive map, to say the least. Total snowfall on the European model. Mountainous West obviously gets gargantuan amounts with the amount of precipitation we are seeing here. But I do want to zoom into the east here if we can. This is the 18Z run, in case you're curious. It always switches back. But here's the 12Z run, which we'll get a full run out of. I guess we'll look at the 18Z run. I'll switch it back because nothing really happens after. But we do see, and take this with a grain of salt, but some of these areas seeing some synoptic snowfall, which means like non-lake effect snowfall. Multiple inches of snowfall throughout Michigan, and a couple of inches perhaps for southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois area from that more synoptic type snowstorm. So a few inches might be possible. The areas in Michigan look like it could be maybe 6 to 10. We always kind of adjust for the sun angle and how early in the season we are. Remember, it's not super freezing before this Arctic blast moves through, so the ground might be milder as well, since that cold is suddenly moving in and then we see the storm roll in right after. That might cause things to struggle to accumulate. But there's, a lot of complicated issues every time we have a snowstorm, so that's not to say it can't stick, and we're going to be monitoring this situation very, very closely. And you can tell snow showers are going to be flying all over the place. The more concerning, and I think the higher amounts, are going to be these lake effect bands, which is going to be mostly Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Indiana here, also Michigan, the UP as well up here. Yeah. Who's surprised? Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York are seeing lake effect snowfall. Who else would see it? But still, I think that's where we have the best chance to see huge amounts, which shouldn't be surprising at all. Looking at the European model's temperatures, we are going to warm up for tomorrow, Wednesday, that's today. We were warmer today. It was in the 70s. I was outside quite a bit. Thursday does cool down for the eastern seaboard, mostly the mid-Atlantic and northeast, whereas the inland areas are much warmer. Friday, we do rebound, though, back into warmer temperatures. Saturday, the 8th, is when that cool down starts to move down. Look at the west. Watch what happens. We get warmer up and down the western coast. That is what really, really allows for this cooler air to just dive in straight from the Arctic. We're tapping right into some Arctic air, and it moves down with a vengeance. This is Monday the 10th. The greens are 10 to 15 degrees below normal. The purplish blues in the middle there are 15 to 25 degrees below normal, and the magentas are 25 to 35 degrees below normal. So that is so massively below normal, it's hard to even describe it. But I think it was yesterday's video or the day before we talked about, for instance, 25 degrees below normal, which is the darkest magentas. We have temperatures perhaps colder than that, but 25 degrees below normal. If your average temperature was 100, which would be, I'd feel so sorry for you, but your temperature outside would be 75 degrees. I mean, can you imagine that difference? Or if your average temperature was 50, it'd be 25. That is an amazing difference. That is completely night and day difference, quite literally. People's average high is in the 50s and their average low is in the mid 20s. That is crazy, crazy huge. We see this last for a couple days. Tuesday the 11th, it's not quite as intense, but the southeast is still seeing quite a bit of it. Wednesday the 12th, we're seeing it kind of trickle out. Thursday the 13th, we're starting to get above normal. And then Friday the 14th is a little colder. We're a little back and forth. We do see some pretty largely above normal temperatures, especially for the time frame after the 15th. So like the 16th, 17th, 18th is going to be your biggest days where we're signaling at warm temperatures, perhaps after, if this European model is correct as well. The key feature here is this colder air over the west. Remember, warmer air over the west causes the colder air to move into the east. The colder air over the west causes the warmer air to move into the east, and we see that in full swing effect. It's going to start with this breaking up. It's not going to start with cold moving into the east, and then it's going to warm up in the west. It happens the other way around. Finally, let's look at the GFS model here, see where we get disagreement if we do at all. And everything looks the same so far. We see our cooldown move down. Again, still, well, we don't see the magentas here, so it's still a little less intense, maybe 15 to 25 degrees below normal instead of that next step that the European model shows. And then we warm up for a few days similarly, although we see the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic wanting to stay cooler here throughout the upcoming pattern, and it looks like we're staying cooler right to the end of the model run after the 20th. So notice, we have perfect agreement for like the first maybe 10 days of the model run. That's typically how it is for the European and GFS model run, and then they just completely split. It's like a complete fork in the road going opposite directions. That's why we always want to consider every possibility once we move beyond that 10-day mark, because usually a model has a good grasp of what will happen, but they usually all kind of disagree, so you have to kind of go over all the possibilities. With all that stuff being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.